Thank you so much for coming to the first official Light DAO Fireside Chat conference event. Thank you so much for coming. My name's Chirag. I run a company called Mission Matters. We're a media platform focused on the needs of entrepreneurs and executives. Payam asked me to moderate the panel. And why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hi everyone, it's so nice to be here. My name is Max Marine, like submarine or aquamarine. Grew up in Philadelphia. Spent 4 years studying finance before a year volunteering in Israel. During that year, I discovered the whole Startup Nation thing, and after getting a master's, moved back for a job in venture capital. Spent 7.5 years in Tel Aviv in venture capital until I had a download in the desert about gratitude, and I decided to go all in on gratitude and find a creative way to scale gratitude and this awareness of gratitude, which we'll get into today, by starting a movement called Grateful Giraffes. So great to be here. Nice to meet all of you.
Grateful Giraffes.
Thanks for having me.
Hi everyone, my name is Payam. Where do I start? Well, I grew up here in LA. I've been fortunate to kind of live in different countries in Singapore, France, London, Indonesia, New York, back to LA finally again. I'm a tech guy through and through, been an entrepreneur now for over a decade. Have had a lot of experiences with psychedelics, ayahuasca. We'll talk about that a little bit more, and how we got to Light DAO. And my personal mission is to help every single one of you here expand, both professionally and personally. So anything that I could do to be of support to you, I'm here for it.
Someone had a buzzy. Someone had a buzz.
So I'm excited to kind of have a conversation with you about kind of best practices, Chirag will talk about, and how we kind of help one another expand. So,
Cool, awesome. Well, why don't we kick it off with maybe sharing what is Light DAO for a lot of new people here?
Yeah, for sure. So we're a global community of conscious entrepreneurs and investors. Our mission is to expand collective consciousness and invest in the future of humanity. There's a lot of layers to it, and we help one another in all the ways possible. So we have a currency, so all of our members get coins, which are called light coins, and the currency itself is a social equity currency, so it's kind of like a love currency. So the more love you give, then the more your love balance goes up. That's the best way to think about it. I actually, we can get into all the layers of it, and maybe it's best to for Max to share also kind of some of the kind of the practices that I think you have that you kind of learned over time, and like what got you to gratitude. Like, why is that the thing that you really wanted to focus on?
Cool. Well, first I want to say it's an honor to be part of Light DAO, and I deeply respect what you're doing and building, and for everyone here who's joining or is already a part of it. Let's spread the light. Gratitude I think is a part of expansion and a part of light. So I'm happy to share how it came to me and how it manifested itself in my life and why I'm committed to it. I was about 20 years of age, and I came across this book called 59 Seconds. It was a bunch of life hacks that you can do in 59 seconds. And one of the things it said is if you write 3 things a day you're grateful for, usually only takes about 58 seconds, you'll be happier, and the science proves it. So I started writing a few things each day, and it actually started to make me cry, because it was the first time in my life I had taken inventory of my life. I had taken so much for granted. Like most of us, we don't really have the time or take the time to really reflect, but I was reflecting on my health, on my education, on my parents, and my friends, and this meal or this glass of water, and I was just like, wow. There's really a lot here, I took it for granted. But for anyone who's been journaling before, it kind of gets old, you kind of lose track, you kind of stop doing it at a certain point, and then you stop doing the work, you stop rewiring your brain, and you start getting back into this negative cycle that we all suffer from as humans. So I took it to the streets. I started approaching strangers. I started asking people in the subway to write a little note of gratitude in my notebook. And I would just keep feeling that light, and I would interact with these people because we're mostly stuck in our minds. We're mostly reflecting on painful things that have happened and painful things that will happen. And that's, again, just human nature. We're here to survive and reproduce. We're not really here to be smiling about the fact that the water works when we turn on the faucet. And so as I would drop in with people and they would write something down, I would just feel like I'm doing something important here. Over time, I discovered Midburn, which is Israel's version of Burning Man, and Burning Man as well. And I would walk around with a notebook at these, desert city experiences, and the experiences there would be a whole other level. Because a person on the subway, they're not dressed in a kimono. They're just, doing their thing, and maybe they'll write something. But in the desert, when everyone's already on their spiritual journey, and then you ask them to write what they're grateful for, they really light up. And I would make this a practice of just, reading the entire notebook at the end of each burn and just crying my eyes out because it was so concentrated, in this single place. And that's, something that I think has inspired me to commit myself to just spreading this awareness, because even me, who's done the journaling, who's done the social stuff, who's done the practice, it's still very hard. It's just hard. And especially for us, A-type people, overachievers, always thinking about being proactive and what the future holds, it's very hard to be that present and really breathe into the fact that you're breathing in. And when you flush the toilet, your shit disappears. We take all these things for granted, but they're actually modern miracles. And so how do we create a culture that kind of reminds us and reinforces this awareness, as opposed to look at us cynically or skeptically when we're like, hey, I appreciate you. I really appreciate your heart and your energy and the fact that I'm here right now. And this is just to kind of finalize the point. It's not just something we should do alone, right? Gratitude is a social practice as well. It's something that brings us closer together, makes us feel more of each other, and oftentimes, just expressing appreciation to someone for the little things can change their day, can change their life. So yeah, I think that's, how I bring it to my life and how I'm trying to bring it to the world. And the more we can just provoke each other to remember in a non-cringe way. We're not toxic positivity people here. If you're suffering from the loss of a loved one, you should grieve. You shouldn't just be grateful and avoid the fact that you're feeling pain. It's okay to feel pain. It's okay to feel bad. You should feel bad. Then you feel happier when you're happy, right? But in general, how can we kind of encourage each other to stay as focused as possible on all the good that surrounds us and all the light that we have to give? So, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Well answered.
Thank you. And how about you, Payam? What are some of your best practices for expressing your higher self?
Yeah. So actually, I had an experience where I mentioned earlier that I did ayahuasca, and I did it with One Heart. I know there's at least two other One Hearters here. One Heart is a beautiful experience. It's heart-led journeys that are, going to Costa Rica and do ayahuasca, and it's more than just that. It's the practice of a lot of things, finding yourself, really finding self-love, and really falling in love with yourself. And part of that is a be-do-have mindset. When we're growing up, when we're little kids, we're babies, we are kind of like, I want to have that, I want to have that, I want to have that, I want a nice car, I want to have the good-looking girlfriend or boyfriend, I want to have that shiny object, I want to have the nice house, I want to make a lot of money, right? So it's a lot of things that you want to have. And you start doing things to have those things. So doing the things are like getting a good job, getting something that pays you a lot of money, right? And then your being is left behind. But really, it's be, do, have. It starts with your being. And when your being is aligned in values, and those values are something that you can write and journal, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And when that being is very solidified and you know what that alignment is, you're going to do all the things that come for that. So for example, these values here, being loved, being authentic, being open, being present, grateful, being a contributor, being connected. When you have these values, not just necessarily those are the values of Light Tao, and I carry many of those or all those values myself, I know who I am. I know my essence, I know my passions, I know myself, and I love myself. I love myself deeply.
Amen.
I love myself more than anything else. And that's the thing. I trust everybody. I trust all of you guys, and I love all of you guys, but I ultimately trust myself the most because my values are so deeply aligned with a deep level of self-love. And when I have that being and that alignment, I do things that come from that place. I'm expressing gratitude with Max. I'm expressing my love, and I hug Tarad. I'm expressing how appreciative I am of having you guys here and having this conversation with you. So these are things that I'm doing come from that place of being, and then I'll have whatever the fuck I want, right? I have all the love, I have all the wealth because myself is my wealth. And so going through this practice of writing down my values, what are the things that really make me me, and what do I love about me? And I'm happy to share this, literally going through, and actually Hannah and I have done this, take 100 words that are the top values that are possible in this universe of values that you could think about, and then take those 100 words of values and say, here are the top 5. Because you might feel a level of alignment with all 100, but what are the 5 that resonate the most? What are those things that are making you you? And then coming from that place and then expressing them, affirmations, and this is something that I did, is I started journaling to myself 2 things every day. What I'm grateful for, and affirmations of myself. I am ... And going through this practice really transformed my life, and it's also how we got to Light Down. I can talk about that a little bit more. But that practice of writing the values and affirming myself and defining those things very clearly and then keep iterating on that is a very powerful experience. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So you shared some practices, right? I guess what could be helpful is how are you applying that into your life, to possibly, I guess, eventually could even share a little bit how it led to Light Tao, but just more on an everyday basis, day-to-day basis, how are you able to apply these principles to both of your lives?
Well, have you guys heard of mirror work? A few people have, but this is something I've been experimenting with recently. You literally look yourself in the eyes in the mirror and you say positive things, affirming things to yourself. I think this is the most powerful practice, and it'll become much more mainstream over time, because again, it comes back to that relationship you have with yourself. That's what you reflect to everyone else, and eye contact is probably the most real thing we have. As we look into other people's eyes, most of us look away, most of us feel a little uncomfortable, but the more we look into ourselves, the more we feel comfortable looking into others, right? So the more we have that practice, I think the more we'll feel more connected, the more open we'll be, the less fearful we'll be. So I think mirror work is going to blow up, and gratitude as part of that practice is something we can all do more of. Something that I've been experimenting with that I've only told one person about, so the big reveal. No. But you record some positive affirmation on your laptop. I love myself. I trust myself, right? And then you take a song that doesn't have lyrics, but you like to dance to. Right? It could be EDM, could be house, could be techno. And you just put that affirmation on repeat on top of that song, and you just play it. You just walk around, you're literally saying to yourself, I love myself, I trust myself, over and over and over again, while you listen to a song you love. Everyone should be doing that. We should have that as like a service. Just like say it pops it out, AI can do something, whatever, press a button, and then we're just all walking around just reminding ourselves, because if we don't take control of our consciousness, someone else will. The media will, the social media will, the streets will. We all need to take back our power, and we can reprogram our inner world with our voice and with our eyes, just looking in the mirror. So, what's that?
When does that app come
I don't know. Let's have a little hackathon. Who's gonna? I mean, ChatGPT can write it very easily, but those are a couple of practices that are, at the bleeding edge of my practice, and happy to share them here.
Yeah. Another practice that I've enjoyed is writing a vision statement, or a vision, kind of like a 10-year vision, and that's also a very powerful practice, because you'd be surprised on how fast things move. Like you think like, oh, like this thing that I'll put out in 10 years, I want to achieve or I want to create, coming from a place of abundance, and through that, it's amazing how when you write these words, it's already in creation. It's already happening. It's not that distant future. It's gonna happen now. And so I think that's one thing that's super powerful is everybody here, I would recommend, if you haven't done it before, take a night, instead of watching the show that you really like to watch or whatever book, spend an hour and write a vision statement for yourself, or a vision paragraph, or a vision page. Because, for example, I wrote, this like a year and a half ago. I said I'm gonna have like a venture fund, and this. I thought I was gonna do that in like 6 years. I'm like, well, it's starting with like that, and that was only a year and a half ago that I wrote that. So that's one thing. And Trog, I'm kind of curious from you, like, what are some of the best practices that you have to tune into your higher self, and what can you share?
I mean, for me, similar to you guys, I've written out. So I spent probably close to 500 hours I hired 2 personal coaches, and so I kind of wrote out like everything. I got over a lot of the trauma stuff and then where I wanted to go. So I had like 3 months, 6 months, 2 year, 7 year plan horizons, and so I started this 2 years ago. End of March, 2 years ago. And so for me, it's cool because I'm doing a 2-year anniversary this weekend where I'm doing a full deep dive on myself. So auditing myself, and I kind of review. So there were a lot of things that I had on initially that are no longer relevant or in my life. So I'm discarding a lot of those, and some of those things that are continuing to grow. So for me, I have this chart that I simplified of just things that I want. So I have near-term, mid-term, long-term goals for myself.
Very cool. Can you share like some of those goals and like how doing that practice has shifted things for you?
Yeah, so starting off in 21, I basically had 10 buckets in my life. So soul, spirit, physical. I had 2 companies I was running, my personal finances, then community, culture, family, friends, etc. In 22, I did a full year audit, and then basically 2 of those were no longer relevant in my life or no longer part of it. So I removed 2 of those and replaced those with 4 others instead. And so even right now, what I'm able to do is, like in terms of like things that I've grown, similar to you, I got an opportunity. So I had to like start a venture fund in 21, 22, I wasn't even on the map anymore. And then I just had an opportunity to become a venture partner in the fund more recently. So like things like that are just starting to grow. And there's stuff on there that I kind of forgot. Like, to give you an example, 22 in March, I put go to Burning Man as one of the things. I didn't even realize it until literally a couple weeks ago that it was even on the chart, because I went to Burning Man for the first time. So there are things like that that just like happened. Maybe it was subconscious, but I saw that it was intentional setting, but it turned into, things that where I wasn't even looking at the chart anymore, and things like that were just happening consistently.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to add when you mentioned, when you like repeat or affirm yourself that you love yourself, you also don't want to lie to yourself, right? So if there's something that is present for you where you know that you could work on, and whatever that is, it's putting your energy and focus into that area where you feel like there's something that you can do more to develop that deeper sense of love for yourself. So literally writing out, I love X about myself. I love Y about myself. Literally writing those out is, again, another powerful practice.
Be specific.
Be very, very specific, exactly. Because through these things that you write out, you'll see where you want to love yourself more. Okay, like I love that I give high fives to somebody, or I love, cooking for friends. I love giving hugs. I love saying the words "I love you," things like that. So also, a practice that I've found powerful.
Cool, awesome. And maybe just to like get into it, how does all of this, how is it incorporated, and how did it lead to Light Out ultimately?
Yeah, so through this journaling practice, I was, as I mentioned, writing all the things that I'm grateful for, my family, all the experience I've had, studies, education, living in different countries, lots to be grateful for. And then on the affirmation side, I had this deep sense of love for myself and how I'm living my life. And I was affirming myself of all the beautiful things that I am. Like, I am love, I am compassionate, I'm grateful, I'm beautiful, I am courageous, I am brave, I am an adventurer, all these things. And as time went on, I was writing the words, I am light, more and more. And I was like, this is really interesting. Why am I writing the words, I am light, more and more? I was like, well, if I'm writing the word and I'm affirming myself of that, it's not that I'm just affirming myself of that or writing it. I am that. And if I am that, well, what the fuck is that? So I went on this deep journey into exploring light. I literally started looking at light, all the light around me. Light from the light bulbs all around us, light from the flashlights, light from a laser beam, light from a candle, light from the sunlight, all the different light sources that you guys are aware of. And I realized that light is one of the most simple things in our existence. All light does 4 things, and 4 things only. Okay? Light has direction. It's coming out in its direction. It's intersecting with all the other light in infinite directions. Okay? It goes where it hasn't been before. And it keeps going. It doesn't die. All light only does those 4 things. And every experience that I'm having, and you're having, and you're having, and you're having, and you're having, and we're all having, is a manifestation of these 4 properties of light. For example, I have a memory of the past and a vision into the future. That is a manifestation of light having direction. Every human being is a unique instance of light in a direction. We're all unique. We're all abundant. We're all unique light beings. When I look out into outer space, there's all the light. When we open up our eyes, we blink, we see darkness. We open, we see light. Our eyes are literally photon receptors. Photons are light particles. Everything in this existence is light. When I go to sleep, so these 4 things are infinite in their manifestations in this experience. What is consciousness, right? We can go into that. We all have grown in our lives from being a baby until now. We've grown. What is growth, right? Growth is consciousness growth. Well, okay, what does that mean? Well, when we look out, again, when we go into like the zeros and ones, light is 1, dark is 0. There's electromagnetic spectrum between that. There's an infinite spectrum. I feel love. I feel fear. I feel infinite emotions. Love is a manifestation of the direction of light. Fear is a manifestation of the absence of light. One of the properties, light is going where it hasn't gone before. That is light emanating in the absence of itself, or darkness. So light and dark are one. They're not 2 separate things. Light exists because dark is there, dark exists because light is there. It's yin and yang. So When I feel love, love is the direction of light. I feel fear, fear is the absence of light or darkness. I feel all the emotions on the spectrum between love and fear. Those infinite emotions that we all fear on the spectrum between love and fear is a manifestation of light intersecting with light in infinite directions in the absence of itself now. There's only one thing that we all can be certain of. Can anybody tell me what the one thing that we can all be certain of is?
Taxes.
Yeah.
The one thing that we can all be certain of is the experience that we're having right now.
Yeah.
Even the sun coming up tomorrow, we're 99.999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999. And until I stopped, right? So, the one thing that we can all be certain of is the experience that we're having right now. Sure of is this experience right now. So, there's a lot of layers there, and I'm writing a book about it. And so then, how does that come to light now? Well, I had this kind of vision of this light thing, and I knew in that moment that my purpose is to have this conversation and to be this message. And the crazy thing is that my name is Message. Paya means message.
Oh, shit.
It is my God-given purpose to be this message.
Amen, God.
We all.
I'm gonna. You know what my name means?
What?
Light.
Light message.
Why are we here right now? Did we actually choose this?
The future.
I don't think I told you that, by the way. I don't think I did, actually.
What does Max mean?
I was gonna say Max, now you go.
Gratitude. It can mean strength or protector, powerful. It's Maximilian, so it depends on the culture.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's, this
Powerful
concept
message
of.
light.
Sorry?
It's a powerful message of light.
Boom.
Powerful message of light, exactly, right? Powerful, yeah.
Eric means synthesis. No.
He's great king, but go ahead.
Yeah. So, a beautiful thing, I'll share, we're writing a book, so there's a lot of, physics and, astronomy and, string theory and quantum mechanics and all of that stuff. And there's one experiment in particular that I thought was super fascinating, which is one of the properties. Light just keeps going; it doesn't die, right? Energy, as we know it, energy transformed. Energy never dies. Photons are the only weightless particle carrying energy moving at the speed of light. So there's, light is perfect. 1 and 0 are always now. Predetermination and the freedom, choice, and free will that we experience are both always true now. I didn't choose my name to be Message to be having this conversation with you guys. I didn't choose that. It's my God-given purpose with Chirag, Light, and Max, the almighty, eternal defender. To be here and having this conversation with all of us right now. And so, well, that doesn't mean that I'm I don't have freedom of will, right? They're both always true now. I'm in flow with life. I'm always in flow. I'm kind of on a river, floating down and choosing how to feel and do what I'm doing.
Me too.
Yeah, it's beautiful. There's a reason why this word enlightenment is enlightenment. Enlightenment is the awareness of being love and light, and then the being of it. There's a reason why this word called illuminate, I'm going to shine this on you. Why are all these words here? There are all these clues are around us of being light, being love, being compassionate, being grateful, being open-hearted. So part of Light Tao, its mission is to expand collective consciousness and invest in the future of humanity. Our mission as a collective is to help all of us expand together. The more we help each other expand, the more unified we are, the more beautiful things and the more heaven we are living in now together. So there's a lot there, but we can also open it up to questions.
Yeah,
we can kind of have more of a dialogue where this isn't just like the three of us talking. Would love to kind of hear from you guys. Thoughts, questions, feelings, what's happening? Yeah.
So when you're following this structure and you fall out of paths, when does it you kind of fall back into those?
Beautiful question, brother. What's your name? Dom? Pleasure. Pleasure to meet you, Dom. Pleasure to meet you, Dom. Yeah, it's a great question. It's like, well, why am I falling out of it, right? What am I all these things all the time? No. Are we all? No, we're all imperfect. We're all beautifully flawed in our own ways. But when I do, I go back, what are my 5 values? What is my core? What are my strengths? Why did I fall out of integrity with myself, right? It's about having integrity. You write those things down, you know what you are, you know that you fall out of it, and you're like, okay, how do I come back to integrity? Well, if I lost integrity, then maybe I lost it with integrity with somebody. It's with myself first, and then it's usually with somebody else as well. So it's first checking with myself, okay, well, what happened? Why did I fall out of that practice? And where do I need to come back into integrity? And it's usually going to be a conversation with somebody. Does that?
Definitely first you want to look at yourself. Of course, that's where all issues stem from. But yes, it is very interesting to see that an outside person as well, how much they affect your well-being, your balance, your habits, like that.
Yeah.
But definitely, I see I'm reflecting it. There is someone I do need to speak with, so I do resonate with it.
Thank you for the question.
So
What's your name? Everyone who's going to ask a question, maybe like a
Yeah,
quick
I'm
name.
Caitlin.
Your name and what it means.
My last name means light. It's Ner. It's Hebrew for light.
Cool.
My first name, it means pure.
Just pure light. Wow, beautiful.
That's a good one.
So I've been reflecting a lot about how people who have been enlightened have experienced this self-love, this gratitude. They can spread that to others, but there are people that are in extreme darkness that might not be as inspired by the people that are so high. How have you tried to help people that are at that dark point? Like, what do you suggest for us to be a light to people that are at the very bottom, at their
Yeah, it's a very good question, Caitlin. Thank you for that. Do you guys want to take a stab?
I can take a step.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it comes down to community, like having a support system of other humans, right? We're not meant to be individualistic our whole lives and do everything by ourselves and be independent. It's a myth, it's a painful myth. And so I think, being able to call someone and just have a conversation when you're in that darkness can make all the difference. And unfortunately, in the West, the community that, was built from religion is deteriorating. So 61% of young adults report serious loneliness. And the amount of friends that we have is dropping off a cliff relative to even 20 years ago. So I guess it's a question of like, how do we help people find their community? And the internet, even though it's difficult sometimes emotionally for many of us, it is a place that we can find like-minded individuals that share values. And there's this app called Kai.ai, maybe you guys have heard of it, and they have an AI mental health bot, right? So you can talk to the bot, and it's really popular amongst teens. and they have like, I don't know, 60,000 monthly active users or 100,000, I don't know, but I think we can see each person having their own AI sidekick, that they can confide in, that they can say how dark they feel, and that AI will actually coach them through it and in a non-judgmental way, just provide that emotional, mental support. So I think that's one application. And then the second thing I would say is, we need to kind of, some of us who are enlightened or on the path or whatever, like sometimes our language gets a little out of control and it just is no longer accessible, to the average person who just says you're a hippie or just have no idea what I'm going through, so I can't really relate to your language. And I think the twist that I'm trying to take is that, let's take an animal, let's take the giraffe. Everyone likes giraffes. If you don't like a giraffe, go fuck yourself. No, probably a psychopath if you don't like giraffes. They're just, incredible creatures. So if you program this animal to tell a story, to tell a message, and then you start singing in children's books and television shows and movies, and it's telling you this, uplifting story, I think you're much more open to listen to it, right? Why does Pixar crush? Animals, right? We all listen to animals, but we really don't like listening to just humans. So for me, that's kind of the twist I'm taking it to tell a story. Just give it to the giraffes.
Thank you for that. I was at Envision Festival like 2 weeks ago in Costa Rica, and I saw this guy. He was in hell. He was the dark spirit that you're referring to. And my immediate feeling when I saw him was this instant of fear. And then I was like, I'm love, right? Like it was like an instant. And I went up to him and I hugged him. And everyone was scared of this guy. I'm like, he was like, there was like an orbit of like this negative energy that was there, right? And I saw his pain. It was really sad. And I went up to him and I put my hand on his heart. And I said, I love you, brother. And I cried. And he went back to being a child for like a second. I saw him go to being this pure, innocent, light child. And then he worked back. And then I hugged him. And he went to being a child again. And then he came back. And, in that moment, the least that I could do is to express how much I love him and that he's loved and he's abundant. Despite he was like a 60, 50 plus year old man, years of trauma, I could tell, right? It was just obvious in all the ways. And again, the least I could do is show him love, because every day he's being neglected. It's obvious. Like even in that moment, nobody wanted to be around him. I was like the only one. For 20 minutes I stood there and I expressed love for this gentleman. So that little bit of him seeing that light and that love, I know was transformational from him, but it's also the least that I could do. Because again, comes back to being. Our most powerful tool that we all have is ourself. Our being is the most powerful tool. Our words, what we say, is our second most powerful tool. It starts with being. If I'm being in a space and coming at that, the words that I say, the actions, the moves that I do, all of that, it's coming from the place of being. So that's the thing that I would say is, at a minimum, that we can all do, is first be that light source and that love source and that compassion and that grateful source, all of that. And that'll then manifest in all the ways, and it'll ripple, right? All of our consciousnesses are expanding together by having this conversation right now. And we're gonna go away from here and expand and expand and expand. And it's like light. It's the wave just ripples across society. And that's the mission here. Anyone else? Anna?
Just want to honor you first for that. That's really beautiful because it's actually related to the question. I wanted to ask the three of you for your best tips for shining light outside of your bubble. Because I think sometimes it's easy to move around in a circle with like-minded people and we seek people with the same values. But I think in this time of a lot of division, it's really important as well to shine light where it's not reaching. Which I'm very passionate as well about what we do at our company, but I wanted to, so that was kind of an example to some extent, although it was in a context where, you know, we find a lot of like-minded people. So how do we bridge the gap and shine light
Totally.
where outside of our bubbles?
100%.
I'll take the first step. So I think it's kind of like what everyone has, or all three of us have been saying in the beginning, right? I think it starts with yourself first to figure out what are your values, what do you stand for. I think part of that is also overcoming all of your traumas and just being understanding of all that, and then being at a good spot. Because I think if you can do that, you can re-energize your own tank, your own energetic light tank, right? And then you can make that shine. So once you know what you stand for, you go out into the world and you just be present and you kind of, share what it is that, gives you meaning, gives you joy, gives you light to other people. And no matter what, right, no matter outside circumstances, you're always in control of your own energy, because that you can always re-energize yourself. So I think it first starts off with you being mindful and you being aware of what it is that gives you that meaning, energy, that joy, that light, and then going back to that as like the light source ultimately. Like,
But
so
for you,
for me,
in LA, even LA
yeah.
is super segregated. Like,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm born and raised in LA, so I completely understand. So I'll give you an example. I have a 3-4 hour morning routine that I've been following for the last 7-8 months, and it's been like pretty consistent for me. So like I wake up, I meditate for starting 5 minutes, that's like 20 minutes. And then I usually do like a workout of some sort for like hour to 2 hours, and then I usually do cold bath, cold shower, hot shower, and then do a prayer of some sort. That energizes me no matter how much I haven't slept or how much I've slept. If I've had a bad day, if I've had a great day, it doesn't matter, because that's my consistent one thing that I do. It just resets me no matter what. So I start with that, and then so for me, I run a company called Mission Matters. Ultimately what we're trying to do is amplify people's stories. And so like it's book publishing, it's podcasting, it's PR, it's digital marketing. We have like a 30-person team, so there's good days, there's bad days, right? Running agencies, anyone that does can probably tell you that. And so for me, I always go back into what resets me, because it doesn't matter, every day is a new day, it's a new 24-hour that I have, and I go back as like my source. So I know I have a direct, like high level vision of where we want to be in the next 10, 20, 30 plus years, right? But we also have where we need to be right now as well, in mind. And so that's kind of the way that I personally do it, to reset and get back into where I need to be.
So, I think about this a lot actually. It's very present for me, so thank you for the question. So, part of Light DAO's mission is to invest in everyone. Well, how do you do that, right? Well, because there's like the realities, like you said, like we're in a bubble here. I sent out as an invite to people that I know, and they sent it to people I know. So like probably maximum, I'm 2 degrees of separation from everybody here, realistically. I'm not going to 7 degrees of separation by being here right now. And it's like, well, there's a part of me that's like upset that I'm not getting to the 7 degrees, right? I'm only getting to the 2nd degree. And so, so part of what we're doing is we're saying it doesn't matter what you're creating, what you're building, what you're doing, as long as you're in this creative mindset, we're calling it an entrepreneurial mindset, we are gonna invest in you. It doesn't have to be money, it can be, but it's how do I help you expand, right? And that's, end of the day, another framework that I like to use is kind of 100% of our time every day is spent in a few ways. You're either by yourself or with other people, right? And then you're either, working and not working, or pleasure and not, right? So the people that we're spending our time with is the most important thing in life outside of ourselves. Being in love with the people that we're spending our time with when we're working and not working is the most important thing in life outside of ourselves. So how do I spend, this is the selfish, my loving side, is I want to be in love with the people I'm spending my time with, more and more. It's what I yearn for every day when I wake up. I want to be in love with the people that I'm working with more and more. I want to be in love with how I'm spending my time when I'm not working more and more. I want to be in love with who I'm spending my time with when I'm not working more and more. That's all that really matters, and I love myself. So, and then from there, I then tell myself, okay, well then how do I make impact? Well, I'm writing a book on love and light and consciousness and growth and all of these things, and giving that book, to others to read, and maybe they share it with a friend and that friend shares it with a friend. Well, that's one thing I can do. I can invest in other entrepreneurs. Doesn't matter if you're building a YouTube channel, or if you're, Peter, who's building this really cool technology to, bring wallet, the ability to have your wallet stored using your email address, right? I want to invest and help all of these people. But then there's the realities of where we are, and then bridging that gap. So,
Yeah, great question. I've literally been thinking about it since you asked it. Just my mind's been going off, trying to understand how I want to answer it, because it's interesting one. To Chirag's point, like if you don't have your full tank, how are you going to go and really make a difference in other communities and those who are less privileged or less fortunate? Is the solution, doing something that scales something, for the masses, and that's how you kind of achieve this goal? Or is it literally just going to the soup kitchen once a week and, handing out food to people who are, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I think there's a quote in the Make No Small Plans book, to move the masses, you need to unite the core. Right, so maybe us coming together and just having these conversations and enlightening one another and bringing the light out in each other is actually the necessary first step, as opposed to us all splintering off in different directions, trying to individually make a difference. But when we're together and we're organized and we're united on a mission, we can have, exponentially more impact. So maybe that's like just another way to slice it. And I think music, creating music or art, this universal language that everyone interprets in their own way, it might sound kind of dreamy, but a song could really rewrite our programming, right? And an art piece could also do that. So maybe, part of my purpose is to create song that can help, spread a message and give people a little bit more light. So those are just some things that came to my mind in the last 5 minutes. But, I think the more we do together, the more we can address the challenge. Yeah.
Everything, my mind. Woo.
Your name and what it means.
My name and what?
And what it means.
I don't know what it means,
Okay.
but it's a spice, actually. Natalie Lee Moore. Nice to meet everybody. I've been doing the work for quite a while now, and so many things are going blah, 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 blah. And two very things that I think that everyone can take away, maybe on a personal leaving today, based on all three of what you said, and especially just now, it's like we feel like the big, and we can't do it all, right? Well, what can I do? So there's two parts that I do every day, and it's like verbiage in my brain. So the first one is, how does the person I want to be do the things I'm about to do today, right now, whatever it is. So let's say charity. In my mind, I'm a millionaire. I'm going to give so much money. I don't have that. I can't pay rent. So I feed a homeless person, or I give somebody who doesn't have a jacket, or a friend of mine even, is not even poor, okay? She loves my pants. I give it to her because she's going to love it more than me, right? How does the person I want to be do the things I'm about to do today? And then on the personal, the light part, so this goes a little two ways. Every human I see, it doesn't even matter if it's a barista, I see you, I hear you, and what you say matters to me, is in my brain all the time. I'm looking in your eye, I see you, I hear you, and what you say matters to me. And maybe I can continue the conversation. Maybe I can't, because my light can't. And that's where that goes a little bit separate. I'm so much light that I'm actually learning how to be the light and not give the light. I cannot wait to talk to you about the directions of light, because I am trying to learn the science of it. You're the first person that's talking to me science light. Thank you. I'm trying to express to people, I'm not making it up. I am light, I'm energy. I can't help it, right? And so now we figure it out, like one person at a time, one moment at a time. And I hope those two things, maybe in a phrase, can help people on a one-one level. It helped me, I don't know.
Thank you for sharing.
I'm going to go ahead and chime in on that as well. My name is Reggie.
What it means?
I have no idea what my name means. When I think about love, I think about three components that I associate with the challenge around love. And that is one, fear of love, trust of love, and urgency. So, I can only talk from my own experience, right? I went through my life many, many, many years fearful of love and what it truly meant, because I didn't trust it. And when I go out into the world, I find that those are two big elements that people have as barriers to entry, right, to their heart, right? Is that, do I trust the source of where the love is coming from, right? And if I do trust it, will it hurt me? So how do we, in this room, become catalysts of love in which those who receive it actually get to receive it, are not fearful of it, right, and can trust it? And the third component, urgency. I really feel that we live in a world where we are very, very comfortable with our ways of being. And love it sort of sits on the sideline, right? There are so many people who are committing suicide, so many neighborhoods that are filled with this lack of love, right? I grew up in the streets of Brooklyn, New York, and I can tell you, like I felt like I was in a bubble of just hatred, right? And stepping outside of that, and thank God He took me around the world to experience different cultures and people. I've had the opportunity to experience love, to trust love, and to not be fearful of it, right? So with our organizations, whatever projects that we're up to, how do we create less barriers to entry when it comes to love, if that makes any sense?
That's great. Is that a question?
It is what it is. Yeah.
Just build on that for a second, because this has just been living in me this whole conversation. And I don't know if this is true or not, but somebody told me this a few days ago, that before modern society and urban society, we lived in small tribes, 150, no more. That was our biology. That's where it evolved. And now we're obviously living in a very different environment. So we have all these malfunctions because our biology was built for one environment, and now it's being thrust into another. And the tribal energy was, we had many caregivers, right? We have many sources of love. We had many mothers. We had many fathers. We were all together all the time. Now, how do we grow up? We have two, maybe one parents, right? And when that one person doesn't fulfill the needs that 10 people used to fulfill, we get activated. Our attachment system starts to freak out. Because we were so used to, oh, my maternal mother isn't available, but I have 4 other mothers I can go to as a little child. But now we grow up in these nuclear families where, if our mother isn't available, it's okay, she's only one person, but we don't have somewhere else to go. So all of us are suffering from that. We don't know how to trust love because that motherly figure that we grew up with, she really wasn't built to be the only person in our life giving us that love. So I think if we reflect on kind of the root cause of why so many of us are suffering, so many of us are anxious, so many of us are afraid, it really comes down to this new family concept that's pretty recent, when you think about it historically. So just food for thought.
Yeah.
We're in LA. Right? Or at least just live in a more communal style life to raise our children, because that way if, your mom's having a bad day, at least you have, your godmother or 10 other people who are able to take care of the children. So
It's the community first approach, right? To
well-being.
Yeah, like the whole centralization concept, moving to more decentralization, having love all around us, right? So it's not concentrated in just one place. It's how do I love more? How do I have more people that can take care of my baby or my parents or whoever it is? But then it's breaking down whatever that fear is or that loss of trust to rebuild that love, and what work needs to happen to develop that. And that work is something that the power of community is always going to be stronger than the power of just doing it by yourself, right? Everything, Max hit it on the head, right? That community is everything. When we come together, we bring our resources together, our time, our energy, our money, our networks, our friends. If we pool all of that together, it's like, whew, we could do everything together, right? I love you, Reggie. I love you to fucking death. Let's just, it's like Queen Kumbaya and, all that stuff, right? But it's like there's a practicality of living life and day-to-days in this, chaotic world that we live in. But bringing order to that chaos is magical.
There's a simple idea in my mind that kind of comes back to Anna's question and everything that we're talking about. And it's, for me, it's been really powerful.
What's your name, by the way?
Eric.
And what does it mean?
Great King.
Great King.
Yeah.
But the concept is simple. It's just kindness, right? So my mother is passing away, and my brother is schizophrenic. And so I've been dealing with this thing where he's very afraid, and he's in a lot of fear. And when that happens, he explodes and he goes into this space. And because of the woundedness of our family and all of it, I started to go into it. And then I realized at one moment that he's losing his mother, right? And it doesn't cost me anything to be kind. It doesn't cost me anything to be kind to anyone, right? And so that concept of just no matter who you are interacting with, kindness is free. And kindness, and the beauty of kindness is that you're feeding something into the world. You're sending something into the world that automatically comes back to you, right? Because your kindness, which is free, and you're giving freely, it's like Reiki. Right? That energy heals the healer as much as it heals the person who's receiving it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that feeds in perfectly, Eric. Thank you for sharing into this concept of regenerative being and entities and economies. So it's what's coming out. The more you give, the more you receive, right? It's that simple concept. Kindness, giving. I love to host. I love bringing people together, right? And it's there's a lot of giving, and I've been very fortunate in my life to realize that the more I give, even more comes back. It's like I'm not even trying, but the more just keeps coming back. So the more we give, the more kind we are, the more compassionate we are, the more love we give, the more all of that, it doubles and magnifies and compounds itself the more you receive. In love, in abundance, in money, in everything, in all the ways, in all the wealth. So, amen to that. Should we have maybe one more question out there?
I
I have
think
a
we're good.
question.
Yeah?
I was just gonna add,
Yeah.
my name is Rose.
Hi, Rose.
It actually means magical flower, so.
Yeah.
I wanted to add to that along with what Natalie was saying earlier, with like seeing people and like really acknowledging them. Like I purposefully, when I get into an elevator, I'll like find one person and I'll make a comment, just so that I can connect with them in a certain way, whether I know them or not, right? Or I'll walk out in the street, or if I see somebody around, if they're just hanging out by themselves, I will leave the group that I'm with and I'll talk to them, just so they feel like they're seen, that they can feel like really accepted. Because I feel as though, actually somebody said this to me once, and I felt really, really sad when I heard this. Especially living, I live in Orange County, but I do come up to LA a lot. And a female said to me, you know, sometimes when I go out, I don't feel accepted. I feel like if I walk into a bar or club and the security person is looking at my ID, they may turn me away because I feel as though, or I may not feel pretty enough. And I felt like that was like the saddest thing for me to hear. I've never had that happen to me, nor do I ever want that to ever happen. So when I like think of those things, I will purposefully walk up to a person just to make sure like they know that like they're appreciated, they're beautiful, they're like lovely. So I just wanted to add on to that, like that's what you have to do. Like when you walk around, you just smile to the person. And it makes a real difference, right? Or you'll ask somebody a little tiny question, you know, just to acknowledge them.
You know how many friends I made on the line? Like, you want to come with me? She with us. She with you, yeah.
Yeah. Most of the time, most people don't feel seen, and it's like really sad. Like we have to change so that people feel seen.
That's beautiful.
If I can add
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
First of all, Simo, I don't know what it means, but I like to. So I just want to give you your flowers for putting this together. I really like it. And so something that I actually love asking people is, where are you in your arc of life? Like in your journey of growth? Always ask yourself, where are you? Because there was a time in the past, every one of us here, whatever we're talking about right now didn't make sense because we haven't evolved into it. So what Payam is talking about, and Max and
Chirag.
yeah, okay. What you guys talking about is this level of consciousness, this level of seeing yourself whole, and also want to share that gift with others. But other people have to be in a certain journey in life to receive that message and also come along with you. And one thing that helps with that is the environments that you surround yourself with, the type of people, the events you go to, and this kind of gatherings, that also helps you elevate and get further in your arc of life. So, just wanted to share that.
Any last words?
So I just want to add on to what you were saying a little bit. So if I got to a point in my life where I stopped asking for permission to be seen, you know, and culturally I had to deal with a lot of shit. You know, I was, you know, not for nothing, but I live in a world where I felt that my skin color was like a mark. You know, like I was being hunted everywhere I went, right? And so again, that barrier to like even hearing of love or trusting or just even being in a space like this, I always had my guards up, right? And I had to ask for permission. Well, am I seen? Am I heard? Am I heard as a man? Am I heard as a black man? Am I heard as an individual? You know, and so I had to get to a point where those things were superficial and they were not in the way, right? So there was a consciousness that I had to get to a place. So I believe that we have an opportunity in our various industries and areas to really create a mindset in which people actually get to be seen, they have permission to be seen without asking for permission, right? For just being themselves and being authentic. And I think that's what we're up against.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for the conversation. Thanks for stepping in and being part of this. And,
Thank you.